Fanspeak, where the plan runs deep. The team grind hard, don't eat, don't sleep. From best ball dreams to DFS streaks, they help you print money every single week. Fanspeak. No cap, no gimmicks, we breaking limits. NFL bets, yeah, we live this business. Meg and Steve, that OG vision. Draft room killers on a lifelong mission. More stress to the Sunday spread. Fanspeak's that voice that's inside your head. Best ball, DFS, NFL bets. They built it brick by brick, no regrets. Fanspeak team, printing money since day one. Fanspeak, forever.
Welcome back to another episode of Talking Ball. Steve-O speak. It is Sunday. It is the last day of the NFL Combine, but we have the tight ends, of course, on Friday, and then yesterday, the quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers done. We have a lot more data. Still some question marks. We're also getting more news and notes and rumors from the Combine. I'm probably not even fully caught up on that, but definitely want to talk about that as well. I'm working on my ranks. Those should hopefully be out tomorrow with some adjustments from the Combine. Some good, some bad from the Combine, but a lot of fun to talk about. You know, we are in the midst of it. You know, tampering period is like a week away, and then free agency right behind that. Probably get some trades, a few other intriguing cuts and trades that are going to happen over this next week, but this is the time for the NFL, and we are just looking at it here at the big board. It is at 48%, little board kind of right in that same range, a little behind actually, 40.1, essentially 40.1% or 41%. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting, and I'll get to all the comments. But I was just on with the Schneid. We did over 2 hours. Didn't even do a draft. We were just talking ball, talking Combine. So we can talk about Combine. We can talk about rumors. Just do some drafts. So I want to hopefully do at least 2 drafts. But really want to thank Cody for having me on. It was a lot of fun, and look forward to doing more shows with him later. Let's hit up the chat. Sunday, 2 days for Steve. Appreciate that, Mike. Yeah, no, I was always going to do a show today, and Cody yesterday asked me if I want to jump on, and it's 100% yes, because it's a lot of fun and really enjoying it. We got an email saying, "Howdy, Steve. They got you working my shifts these days. LOL grinder." Appreciate that email. Hope you're doing well. Darkside Dev's in here. What up, Steve? Doing good. A lot of fun things to talk about. Wolf Guy, I've seen Washington go in the 9th. Wow. Yeah, we were just talking about with Cody, the Mike Washington rise. I probably should have gotten some more of them before Combine. So I only have a couple percent, I believe. I don't think I can pay a 9th round price tag, 9th, 10th round price tag. This is too akin, and even then, at least we knew a lot. But after the JCM stuff where he went from being an 18th round click to then a 15th, 16th round click, and then all of a sudden he's 8th, 9th round. It's just like, whoa, the price just went way too up. So that's going to be scary. Hopefully Washington starts to fall down maybe after free agency, after some landing spots happen. I do understand it right now. There's so many guys. A guy like J.K. Dobbins could be a great pick. He could be an awful pick. Aaron Jones, who sounds like he's getting cut by the Vikings, he could be a great pick. He could be an awful pick. Just we have to see where he ends up. Flyfish checking in. 2+ hours of Combine talk and no drafts would have been a feat. Yeah, I do enjoy it. And as soon as I jumped on with Cody, it kind of said, like, I don't know if we'll get to a draft. We'll see how long this lasts. And, it turned out we had plenty to talk about. So it was awesome. We got Danimal checking in. Appreciate that. Appreciate everyone for all your support. We will, I plan on doing at least 2 drafts. So let's get into the first one now. We can talk plenty throughout. Feel free to shout out any rumors out there. I'll try and bring some up as the draft goes on. And so I'm going to count it down, getting the first big board. And I will be entering in 10 seconds. And in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, enter. So I will start the combine conversation just as a whole with the quarterback position. Fernando Mendoza did not work out. The other quarterbacks did well, and if you listen to Cody's and I show, we both said Ty Simpson threw the ball well, but we are also kind of both in agreement. Ty Simpson is not a fantasy asset quarterback this year. I mean, maybe maybe the Jets draft him and fully commit to him, and to me, I will take every starting quarterback at some point, but right now I cannot draft Ty Simpson. I don't think he's going to be a big-time starter. We're waiting on 9 in a big board if you want to join. Year 1, I don't think this is the Tyler Shuck half a year or Jackson Dart, 80% of a year kind of outcome for him. I think if anything, it's the last couple weeks, and even that could be a stretch. So I think the real quarterback talk comes from some of the rumors that are out there. Kyler Murray, it sounds, is going to be more likely to be cut than traded. I think that's interesting, as that probably makes it more likely that Kyler Murray goes to a team like, say, the Vikings, which I think is a positive landing spot, or say the Jets, which would be a much more questionable landing spot. If he was traded, he has no choice. He has to go to the Jets, and he's still going to end up there. But if he was traded, he now gets to choose, and Arizona is one of the better places. He's leaving that. I think the Vikings, Steelers, Falcons would be the next 3 options. Falcons, of course, have Michael Penix. I don't know if they want to invest in Kyler Murray, especially with all the dead money they're dealing with the Kirk Cousins situation. But it's at least intriguing that he now will get to kind of choose his destination. That also means the Cardinals' job is just wide open. Maybe that means they roll Jacoby Brissett, but it doesn't even sound like that's their plan. They've been tied to Malik Willis. There was a report they're tied to Jimmy Garoppolo. Now that could be more of a backup situation. Garoppolo coming from the Shanahan tree, and of course, the last couple of years with the Rams, where LaFleur is coming from. But Garoppolo has plenty of starting ability, or starting history. So for a 1-year stopgap, maybe he ends up being a starter. I'm not taking him right now in best ball until we see it and see what that contract is. All right, this draft is live. We got Danimal in the 1 spot. I'm in the 7, and Mr. Mufasa in the 10. That's all I know for sure from chat, but if anyone else is in here, let me know. Let me just get back to chat. Meg, my sister, checking in. Busy day at the office. Love it. Update Sidekick. Well, if there's an update out there, I will not know. I don't use Sidekick. I will, do use Best Ball Overlay, and I need to eventually download that for this year and all that. But I kind of draft more, I use that more to track like ownership percentages, things like that. I'm not looking for recommendations. I like building it out how I look to build it. But I know a lot of people utilize Sidekick, so I get it. TD Mr. Mufasa, GM, hope you're doing well. And Mike Rob, Meg out here pretending she didn't strap Steve to his chair and tell him to stream all evening. Also, side note, later tonight, probably we'll take a break after this, but later tonight I will be taping a members only video on Fernando Mendoza. I'm about to make my pick, so let me do that. So I'm going to do a members only show on Fernando Mendoza. If you want to watch it, become a YouTube member. We have 2 different options. We appreciate all your support. So I just wanted to shout that out. But that will be later tonight, as I probably will need a break after this. Let me take some JT here. At 7 feels good. I think Monroe, I totally get him being in this mix. But I'm very high on JT. OTR 513, you're the man, Steve. Thanks for the Sunday content. Appreciate that. Yeah, no, I enjoy. I'm been streaming a lot more, and I want to continue that. This week I'll probably be streaming just about every day, and I might even sneak 2 a day where I do. I'll probably separate it going forward, like a baseball stream and a football stream. But I'll have to see. I on Tuesday will be on my channel about 1 o'clock Eastern time, and then I'll go on Huheim's channel at 3 o'clock. So I already have 2 shows that day. Probably 2 shows Thursday with Sibling Showdown at night. But maybe there's another day where I can add in a second show as well, maybe Wednesday or Friday. So we will keep an eye out on that. All right, sitting here, I am definitely lower than the field on Jeremiah Love, but there is no question after his combine time, I think his ADP rises. I think he starts to move to like ADP 15. So let me take him some more here when I'm getting him at 18, which is technically behind his current ADP. My issue with Jeremiah Love has never been about Jeremiah Love. He is a fantastic prospect, one of the top 5 running back prospects of the last 20 years, at least 15 years. The problem is just it's so tough to predict which rookies hit. Like, one of the best rookie running backs in recent years was Najee Harris. He was going as like a late 3rd, 4th rounder. It's just, and nobody would ever confuse Jeremiah Love and Najee Harris in the same category in terms of prospect, but it was just the situation Harris went to was perfect. You still had Ben Roethlisberger, who could relatively run the offense, but he also couldn't throw deep. So it was just dump off city to Najee Harris. And then, because the offense was good enough, they got to the red zone a lot. And so Harris had a lot of touchdown opportunities. Jeremiah Love gets a great landing spot. Yeah, he has a chance to pay this off, but he gets a bad landing spot, as we saw with Genty last year. It's going to be a lot tougher to pay off this ADP. So I want some, but I'm definitely not going to be over the field until we see the landing spot. And then that will determine where I'm at, like in BBM on. All right, so we're sitting here like Josh Allen, AJ Brown. Let me take AJ Brown, get a wide receiver in the mix. As much as I like Josh Allen and think he's perfectly fine to click here, it's, I'm not going to go crazy for Allen this early. While I think he's the best quarterback, the level of quarterbacks that we're getting in round 6 and 7 are extremely good as well. So, and at that point, like, running back is in a kind of a dead zone, and receiver is just kind of average. So, let me take AJ Brown here for that reason. We have Sweet Leaf checking in. Definitely done a lot of drafts with Sweet Leaf. Finally realized it didn't cost money to subscribe and chat. Yeah, no, you can support us just by, being a YouTube subscriber, liking the episodes, commenting after the episode, all those things, commenting during the episode. All those things help us out quite a bit. We appreciate that, and love to draft with you as well. We do, of course, other ways to support the channel, like becoming a YouTube member, and also our Substack. We also have a free Discord. If you want to keep chatting with us, free, you can join the Discord. I like both JMO and Adams. Also like Loveland. I don't have a ton of Loveland right now. Let me go there. Usually when I take Loveland, it's either going to be a 2 tight end build or Loveland, and I'm waiting until like the late 150s, early 160s until the next tight end even crosses my mind. Unless I'm just going for a 2 tight end build. Then maybe I'd do like a Loveland Ferguson or Loveland Goddard or somebody like that. Let me go to the board. I'm seeing it 0211. We have Mr. Mufasa in at 1300, and Danimal is 0210. Danimal takes our guy, Cam Scadaboo. I will say it's slightly concerning, all the buzz that's coming that the Giants are prioritizing running back in either free agency or the draft. It seems odd given the success Scadaboo had and even the relative success Tracy has been. Obviously, Jeremiah loves an upgrade over both those players, but Scadaboo and Tracy, who's also dealt with some zone injury issues, if they could stay relatively healthy this year, that could be a tremendous 1-2 punch. So I still will take them, but boy, do I not like the rumors out there. Mike Robb asking, so if Jennings and Ayuk leave San Francisco, do you see Kendrick Bourne coming back and being a late round option? I've done twice so far, but wondering if it's thinking too deep into an unlikely outcome. About to make my pick, and then I will answer. I'll take Swift to get my third running back that I feel fairly confident about. So I wouldn't do it too much right now. Let's let free agency play out, because even if that happens, Ayuk's gone, Jennings is gone, and even if they don't sign anyone big, like bringing back Debo or bringing Wan'Dale Robinson, or it doesn't sound like Alec Pierce is going anywhere. So, or Mike Evans, they could bring in Mike Evans, Romeo Doubs, etc. Like who's been in, keep in mind the little floor system, McVay system, Shanahan system, very familiar. So Romeo Doubs going to the 49ers to play that Jennings role would make quite a lot of sense. But let's say they don't bring in any of those guys. They're still the draft. But if that is the case, we get to mid-March and they haven't signed any big free agency agents and they have Kendrick Bourne, yeah, I would start taking them. But my thought is, even then, like, where's he going to go? 17th round, 18th round, maybe 16th round. Because still the draft is looming, and I think the 49ers would be very live to take one or two receivers in the draft. So could there be an outcome for him? 100%. Am I going to bet high in it now? Not right now. I'm just going to need to see it more. Let's just take what this area is and we'll go quarterback. I think it's more likely than not that AJ Brown stays with Philly. So from the stack perspective, I'll pull up Hurts above these other quarterbacks. Normally I'd take Jaden and May above him easily. Burrow if I had any sort of stack going, and Caleb had gone right before me. That's what I was hoping for with Loveland and Swift. That did not materialize though. But I think there's still paths right now where Bourne can still pay off. So it's not, there's a path there. It's just not my favorite thing to do. I'd rather wait for the news of free agency, because they could just bring in, they have some money to spend, they have some draft picks. They could just end up bringing in, even if those two guys leave, they could bring in a mid-tier free agent, high draft pick, and then Bourne is the fourth option. Dan was saying he was good to pull him up. Love a good Loveland fan and build and call quits. Yeah, those two tight ends don't really go Bannon as much just in this current range. I'd like to see him fall a bit more closer to like it's Laporta. And that's just not an anti-Fannin take, that's an anti-Browns take. But yeah, I mean, that was kind of grabbing a couple of these tight ends. Danimal takes the Fannin craft. That kind of situation, you feel really good. You can stop there and save that roster spot for something else. So yeah, I don't mind that. I've done that a few times. S.3000, hey Steve, what are your thoughts on the lackluster combine performance of wide receiver group? I think that pushes Love up for teams not looking O-line and D-line. So yeah, I talked about this a little with Cody. The top end guys didn't test, and what they did test didn't test well. Tate 40 time was below expectations. So yeah, I think there's a real chance that Love could be the first, after Mendoza, first non-offensive lineman, defensive lineman taken. Now, do I really think it's the Titans or the Giants? Probably not. We could just have this like Mendoza and then a couple of O-linemen and defense linemen. I need to catch up at receiver. So let's take Alec Pierce. Sounds like he's back in Indy. That feels good. So yeah, I think that's very live to see Love. And well, I mentioned this with Cody, like rarely do you see a team trade up for a running back. Love could be that exception. Not sure if anyone will actually do it, but Love could definitely be that exception to the rule. But you do have a lot of teams in the top 10, Washington, Saints, Chiefs, most notably, who have big question marks at running back. Giants make less sense to me. Titans make sense in the fact that while they have a very capable backfield in Pollard and Spears, that backfield is gone next year. So as much as they like them, they then have to repay for it. The Giants doesn't make sense because it's super cheap. Like 3 cheap years of Scatterbo, 2 cheap years of Tyron Tracy. So you're set for you'd be set for a couple years, where the Titans would be one year, between those two. But yeah, that's a high price for Jeremiah Love, but I think his combine at least makes that a live consideration. I attempted the Laporta there and just be done, but let me go Michael Pittman Jr. Mixed, with Pierce being locked or seemingly locked back with the Colts. Does that mean Pittman's on the way out? I know a lot of people will suspect that. I'm more of the belief, Pittman's still very young. He's in the last year of his deal. It's expensive. They could save a lot of money by cutting him. I get that. Excuse me. I don't think they cut him. They could even trade him for a pick, but they are in a win now mode. Chris Ballard's been there 10 years. Steichen's been there, 4 years? They need to make the playoffs. I don't think you're improving your playoff odds by getting rid of a good receiver. Like Michael Pittman, he was drafted the same year as T. Higgins. Is he as good as T. Higgins? No, but he's a good starting receiver in this league. Can be a big part of their offense. Is it less valuable to them because they have guys like Pierce and Warren and even Downs behind them? Sure. But I just think Steichen is going to need to put the best offense out there to win. And, I see Pittman probably staying. So this could open me up for a Daniel Jones stack later. And if Pittman does leave, he's going to be a starter somewhere. So I don't hate this price for him. So and I have a major cold stack with Jonathan Taylor. Situation right now. Rico goes, would have considered that. Could do Gadsden and just be done. I think I'm going to do that. I haven't done many on stream. I've done a couple of these, just 2 tight end teams. Give me the 2 second-year guys, Loveland and Gadsden. This could be a very, very strong tight end room. Let me go back to the board, and I will get back to chat. Love is somebody to really watch. Again, still skeptical of going as high as Titans, Giants, but I think once you get to Washington, Saints, Chiefs range, any of those, and maybe those are, it's the Chiefs. I know they don't have a ton of stuff, but if they view Jeremiah Love as their last piece to get back to the Super Bowl, do they give up, a third rounder to move up 3 spots? Yeah, they might do it. Replied Kendrick Bourne, too thin a bet for me. To Marcus Robinson still under contract, so we guess he's true to Bourne on depth chart. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of my thought is like these cheap wide receivers right now it seems like they have a path, but and they could, like, if nothing ends up happening, sometimes these guys do end up with a more, usable role. But it's kind of like the Patriots, like Kayshon Boutte and Matt Collins both ended up with some usable weeks this year and would have been worth 20th round, 19th, 20th round clicks for sure. But it's because their only signing was Diggs Hollins, but it just lended itself to a situation. I don't have a stack, but I'm just going to take 14 pick discount, 15 pick discount on Matt Stafford, have a good second quarterback. Not going to take a third tight end, so I won't end up with a stack. But for a guy who, if he's healthy, can throw 40 touchdowns again, also is a nice floor play. Like, even in previous years, Stafford has been very consistent in high teens, low 20-point games. Hasn't had a lot of like ceiling games, but just been a consistent performer. So we'll tack on a third quarterback, but like getting a little bit of a fall there. Didn't feel like reaching for receiver. We're almost definitely going 9 receivers, and that seems pretty locked in. And just back to like the Patriots with Hollins and Bourne, it's like these cheap second-tier wide receivers, third-tier wide receivers sometimes end up usable. We saw it the year before Washington with like Noah Brown and Zacchaeus a little bit, just because the opportunity was available. It's just not something I'm drafting right now. That's more like those guys will still be late-round clicks in July and August, is the way I view them. Ahead of Bourne. Okay, I was still wondering what Shrewd meant, so appreciate the clarification. Part of my brain the last 3 minutes was thinking, what does he mean by Shrewd? Paulino checking in. What's up, Steve? Hope you're doing well. This draft is not great in premium positions, so these guys on non-premium positions with elite traits like Love, Sonny Styles are better bets and big difference makers. I think this is the time you make that bet, right? Like for Jeremiah Love or like Caleb Downs, Sonny Styles, other off-ball linebackers. This is not good. We will take Debo. That was a panic pick, but I like Debo in this range. Totally didn't realize I was on the clock. I think I got it in. There we go. So probably should have taken Concepcion, but Debo is a fine click for me there. So yeah, I just could see whether it's the Giants take a Sonny Styles or Washington, or Love for Washington, and yeah, I mean Washington needs just about everything. Caleb Downs would make sense for Washington. Like any position, just about you can justify for the Commanders right now, outside of quarterback. So no, I agree. We're going to see, and I just think in general, teams are going to focus on defense. A lot of bad defenses, of course, at the top. Some bad offensive lines. Browns could really use a whole new offensive line, so they could look to take whoever they view as the top offensive line, and whether it's Fano or Mwaga would be my guess. But maybe they pulled the trigger on defense themselves, or maybe they pulled the trigger on a wide receiver because they're desperate. Wouldn't be what I would do. Mike Rob, what's your leaning on Rams tight end room? Any viable options to maybe break out? Heard Parkinson's could get cut for money. That would shock me. Rams actually have decent money. My guy Emmett Johnson is falling, but I will continue to let that fall. Let's take a Malik Willis here. Get our third quarterback. Another guy with some rushing upside. I think Kyler would have made sense as well. I'm just not reaching for a wide receiver in this range. I don't need Sadiq, even though I think he's going to start creeping up, and I will move him up my rankings. So let's just take what the draft gives me with the quarterback. Emmett Johnson doesn't fall much. I didn't expect him to. I mean, I think in general he will fall, but it's more because I had such an ownership stand on Emma Johnson. No need to keep that up when I think in the next week or so we'll see much more in the 140s. I'll be start scooping that up. So let's see. Did Mike Washington go yet? I would assume. No, I don't see Mike Washington unless he went real high. Okay, that's interesting. As for the Rams, Higbee's a free agent. They have Ferguson, but Ferguson and Parkinson are different. Parkinson is much more complete inline tight end. I think we saw the Rams like the 12 and 13 personnel quite a bit. So I don't think they still Davis Allen. He might be a restricted free agent, but I think he's expected back. My guess is they just roll with those 3 tight ends. Parkinson probably ends up with the most total snaps because he just doesn't need to leave the field. But Ferguson could have a nice enough passing role where he ends up being the 3rd target on the team. Quarterback's going a little later than I expected. We will take Kamara. Haven't heard much buzz what they plan on do in the Saints. It doesn't sound like he's going to get cut. Maybe he restructures. And, I could have waited for Daniel Jones. Probably should have with all my Colts. With the Willis pick, but just didn't love what the board had there. Kelsey going at 152. Obviously, I don't need tight end, but was wondering that. There were definitely some positive reports, like that it's trending in the right direction. Kind of same thing we heard with Aaron Rodgers. Both seem to be trending to play and trending to, be back with their teams. And so I think they're both going to start moving up. Another thing that could affect wide receivers to drop is if teams feel they can get more value in second, thirds. Some guys get pushed down. Yeah, this was the conversation Cody and I had is, and particularly for these teams in the top 10, because while it's actually a good off-ball linebacker class and a good safety class, I will still take Katron Allen here. Yeah. Actually, we'll go Rashard White. Since none of these receivers are like your true alphas, your Malik Neighbors, your Jamar Chases, those types, you can get a good receiver in the 2nd round, a good receiver in the 3rd round. So, like the Caleb Downs is a special player, Sonny Styles is a special player, an offensive lineman, fairly deep class, but it will still, you run out of offensive linemen every year. Like that is like the first position that NFL teams generally run out of. So I think teams will prioritize those. I'm going to say right now we'll probably see 1 wide receiver in the top 10, another couple in the teens, a couple more in the 20s. I think we do get at least 5 first rounders, maybe 6. My biggest concern is that Love falls to the Chiefs. I think that would be incredibly detrimental to the sport, fantasy aside. Detrimental in what sense? Just them getting a lead back? Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of teams have caught up with the Chiefs. Like the Chiefs' defense has gotten old fast. Their offensive line has been a mess. Those are areas they need to work on. They still need, wide receivers, even though they've, invested in the position some. I'll take Katron Allen here. Be done at running back early, done at running back, done at quarterback. Let's focus and done at tight end. This can be receivers the rest of the way. We'll see if I can get some value. So, I mean, look, Love is, well, I think it does help them getting back to the Super Bowl. it's going to be a tough road, even their own division. We know the Broncos are a good team. We know the Chargers are a good team. Raiders might have a couple years to grow, but they should be more competitive. And then, every division right now in the AFC feels like 2-3 teams that feel competitive now. Like the Bills no longer are walking away with the division. The Patriots are a good young team on the rise. In the North, if Lamar's healthy, we know how good the Ravens can be. If Burrow's healthy, we know how good the Bengals can be. Steelers, it's no longer Mike Tomlin, but they can still be a playoff team, a thorn in team sides. And in the South, like Texans continue to get it done despite their hiccups. The Jaguars, Lincoln was a massive breath of fresh air to that team. And then the Colts. If Daniel Jones doesn't get injured, through the first 10 weeks of the year, Colts looked like, made the team in the AFC. Trey Harris goes. That would have been my click there. I'll wait on Surratt. I'll go for somebody whose role I feel could be just as good in Seattle. And like I said, we need to catch up here. So, yeah, Love, it's just so tough to slot Jeremiah Love in the draft, particularly without a trade. And teams are less inclined to trade for a first-round running back. So, but at the same time, I do think teams are getting more pushed, seeing the success of Bijan, seeing the success of Jahmyr Gibbs, even the total success of a guy like Josh Jacobs. Granted, it didn't change the franchise for the Raiders. But these first-round, early second-round running backs, their impact is very, I wouldn't say undeniable, but I think teams are opening themselves up to the idea a lot more. And this is the perfect draft to do it in. Yeah, the Colts offense was unstoppable before their bye. And then, of course, Daniel Jones, we heard, I think during the bye week, because it was right after the Germany game when Jonathan Taylor went nuts. And then they were on bye. And we heard during then that he had the fractured fibula, but was still going to play. And then, of course, sadly blows out his AC or his Achilles. Just what a crazy turn. Oh, I wanted Io Manor to fall. Didn't get that. I'm going to take Ryan Flournoy. I think he is going to be firmly established as the number 3 in Dallas. And that's a passing offense that I do think can support a third receiver at least a little bit. So this is going to be thinner wide receiver than I like for sure. That's why we definitely need 9. Yes, the Colts had an easier schedule. They played the Jaguars, I think, week 3 or 4. Yes, I get it. The Patriots had an easy schedule, like Colts had an easy schedule at the start, but I still think they would have. Do I think they would have ended up the best team? No, their defense kind of fell apart. Their secondary, even getting Sauce, and of course Sauce then gets hurt, really fell apart down the stretch. But that offense, like Daniel Jones had a bad game against the Steelers, but outside of that, his performance was pretty much good against everyone. I don't really do it, but hey, it seems like Billy Bean might be forcing, or Brandon Bean, not Billy Bean, might be forcing Keon Coleman. So let me take a shot there. I'll have very few of it, but this is going to be a 9 wide receiver team, and I need some upside swings. So no, schedule does matter. I mean, we saw this with Washington the year before. They won the easiest schedules. And also like when they caught certain teams, like they were completely devoid of players. So yes, that is a factor. But I do think, the Colts, they lost to the Rams, but they lost to the Rams in that early schedule because of a Donnie Mitchell, not because of Daniel Jones, not because of the Colts. Donnie Mitchell drops a touchdown through the end zone, and he holds on a Jonathan Taylor touchdown. Those two plays easily could have gone the other way, and the Colts win that game. Mims would have considered, but I take Keenan Allen. Hasn't officially said that he's coming back, but I've heard more than a few rumors trend that he still is going to play. If so, he's going to go way higher than this. So we'll stack that up. No doubt. Again, easy schedule, but like I understand the, okay, they didn't play the Jags in that time. I'm looking at it now. Yeah, Chargers and Denver were their big wins in that time, but they should have won the Rams game. The Steelers game was only a 7-point game. Steelers were more in control of that game, and that was like the one bad game for. We'll take Jeremy Bernard, Cody's favorite guy. I have a good bit of him. I see him slightly moving up, so let's get another 20th round share when we can. And hopefully that went through. So I understand that 2 of those were losses. I thought they outplayed the Rams, or at least were on par with them. And Steelers, they were mounting a comeback. Steelers were in control, but they weren't out of it. It was by far Daniel Jones' worst game of the year at that point. So yeah, I don't want to say like they faced murderer's row of teams, but I also think like had they played, I understand they didn't play Houston, Jacksonville in that time, but I think they would have beaten those teams. So with the way that offense was rolling, I think they would have beaten them. The problem is when they got to play them, you had a situation like that first game against Houston. I think Daniel Jones was still there. He played fine in that game. So I was looking at it now, and that was another close game. But Houston had gotten better, and I really think it is sometimes you luck out when you play a team. Like Houston early on was more inconsistent. They played better down the stretch. Same with Jacksonville. Like very inconsistent in the first run of the season. Jacksonville had some big wins, but they also their offense was a mess. Late in the year, their offense is just rolling. So, and I agree. Like if the best of Colts versus the best of the Jags might not have gone the Colts' way, but it would have at least been a close game, a competitive game, not the blowouts. Polino saying the Colts have an easier strength schedule in 26 too. Yeah, I mean, finishing with the lower rank, I'd have to look at what their full schedule is, but that should help them. Thanks, Steve. Truly think you're giving the most informative and unbiased takes on YouTube. Appreciate that. When I win the big board, I'll give you a shout out. Appreciate that as well. All right. So this draft is finalized. My team goes 3-6-9-2. Jalen Hurts, Matthew Stafford, Malik Willis, Jonathan Taylor, Jeremiah Love, DeAndre Swift, Alvin Kamara, Rashard White, Kaytron Allen, receivers A.J. Brown, Alec Pierce, Michael Pittman Jr., Deebo Samuel, Torrey Horton, Ryan Flournoy, Keon Coleman, Keenan Allen, and Jeremy Bernard, 2 tight end team of Loveland and Gadsden. So thinner wide receiver than I would have liked. Probably should have taken maybe another wide receiver here in like the 151 or 162 pick, and then just push a later running back. But at the same time, so many of those late running backs, one of my favorites, Emmanuel Wilson, I thought he was a lock to be back with the Packers. Now that's at least questionable because they didn't tender him as a restricted free agent. So, there's just so many of these late running backs could just be totally zeros, even some of the ones drafted. So right now, after free agency, maybe I'll start pushing more late round running backs, see if we can get some value. But currently I feel like, and even here, like there's question marks with Kamara, there's question marks with Rashard White, even Kaytron Allen. There's no doubt question marks with these three, but I think that it's a tier better than, some of the guys who were drafted late. And these guys, is Marshawn Lloyd going to be a thing? Is George Alani? Just really tough to say. So yeah, I do worry about the receiver room. I feel like for this team to win, I think quarterbacks are super strong. For this team to win, obviously need Jeremiah Love to be worth the second rounder, but I'm going to need Swift to hit my flex quite a bit. I'm going to need tight end to hit the flex a little bit more often. So it's possible. And of course I need the Colts offense to just be rolling. So I probably should have waited on my third quarterback and taken Daniel Jones. Just didn't love the options available there. So I will say, I'm going to do another draft going forward, because it is one of the things we offer our YouTube members. I'm going to mainly just give out reviews for our members. Mr. Mufasa is one of those members, so I will give his team a shout. I understand, not everyone can get a memby, but if you ask some specific questions on players, I was still trying to answer those, but did want to give a shout out to our YouTube member, Mr. Mufasa. He went 2693, Josh Allen, Shador Sanders. That is risky if Shador doesn't end up being a full-time starter, and of course just with the bye. But of course Josh Allen is QB1, so he can carry a team. Running back room, James Cook, Marion Hampton, ETN. He got Mike Washington, and still, 154 is probably a good price for Mike Washington at this point. I know his ADP is 195. I said on Cody's show I'm going to move him into my top 150, probably in the 140 to 150 range. So gain him at 154, I think is pretty good. Sean Tucker, Ollie Gordon. I like how that running back room came together, especially right now when others are saying Mike Washington is going 9th, 10th round. You get him here. I think that's ends up being a nice pick. Mekhi Lemon, DK Metcalf, who I think is one of the more underrated receivers right now. Quentin Johnston, DJ Moore, Chris Godwin, Romeo Doubs, Rashid Shaheed, Donnie Mitchell, Cooper Kupp. So he, like me, went volume at wide receiver, 9 wide receivers. Lemon, Metcalf are, his earliest 2, QJ as well, and DJ Moore. So, when you look at it, Chris Godwin just outside the top 100, but essentially like 5 in the top 100-ish range. Romeo Doubs. What I like about this is I think he takes advantage of people are treating this free agency for Romeo Doubs and Shaheed with, I think, too much uncertainty. I think both likely end up being pretty clear starters, like probably number 2s on their team somewhere. And yes, that can very wildly be different depending if you're number 2 for the Browns or number 2 for, I mentioned Romeo Doubs going to the 49ers. That's would be a great landing spot for him. Shaheed, he could go to the Bills, he could go to the Raiders, and Raiders still is probably fine, just with the system and everything. But yeah, if he ends up the number 2 for Yeah, the Jets, that's not great. I actually think Mr. Fossa got the number 2 for the Jets, Adonai Mitchell, and he got him, 50 picks later. I like Adonai Mitchell at this ADP. Do I want to pay for the Jets wide receiver at 130? Probably not, but number 2 wide receiver at 180, yes. So I like Adonai Mitchell, definitely spike week potential, particularly if he stops dropping the football both before and after he catches it. And then finally, Cooper Kupp. I have said all along, I think Cooper Kupp is just essentially free at the end of drafts and a really good pickup. Tight end room of Dalton Kincaid, Isaiah Likely, Cade Otton. We'll see where Likely and Otton end up being. They're both free agents, but I think they're both starters in this league. And Kincaid, even if the Bills add a top end receiver via free agency of the draft, Kincaid should still have a major role. So I think he's fine as is. But you have this nice Bill stack going of Allen, Cook, and Kincaid. So that feels really good. And yeah, that's a good, fun team. All right. I am going to go back. We'll get into another draft soon, but let me hit up chat. Animal saying, nice team, Steve. I went crazy. Yeah, I liked what you did with the 2 tight end combo there, and some of your other picks. So yeah, I thought that was a fun draft. Paulino, good call on Bernard, Steve. You've been in on him. His 3-cone, very bullish on his play style. Yeah. I think he and Cody is the king of the Jeremy Bernard club. So I'm not going to be taking that title from him, but. Boy, if he stays in this 17th, 18th, 19th, even if he moves up to the 17th round, I think he's a very fine click. Mid-second rounder, I think, in the draft. A lot of places where he's going to go in and compete for a role. And what I like about him and the 2 Indiana receivers is they just feel very NFL ready. So I think that helps their fantasy outlook. Mike Chiato checking in. If I can click on the comment. I'm crazy believing that Devonta Smith is going to be a top 10 wide receiver this year. I think if AJ Brown were traded, that would definitely be the case. I'm getting less. I think it's less likely that AJ Brown gets traded. It's just there's a lot of cap gymnastics that would have to occur. The Eagles cap situation, it's not bad. They're not over the cap, but they don't have a lot of maneuvering room. And they would have to eat a lot of money to trade away AJ Brown. So, the report was like they'd want a 1st and a 2nd for AJ Brown or something that came out over the weekend, which is more than they gave up for him. And he's a couple years older and more expensive. So it seems less than likely. And just with the way that it's traded, it doesn't make sense to trade him until after June 1st. And at that point, you're getting less return for this year, unless it's just for players. Like Dallas probably regrets trading Micah Parsons when they did. Had they traded him before the draft, then they could have adjusted. They took a Zaraku, but they could have taken another edge. They obviously would have had a 1st-round pick. Where the Packers took Golden, they could have taken another edge there, or they could have taken just another player to help them. This past season. So the Eagles to me in the same camp, trading. AJ Brown after June 1st, unless it's just for straight players and a couple of 3rd round picks, that's just much harder to do. So that all being said, I still think Devonta Smith can pay off his current ADP. I think the Eagles offense under Kevin Patullo was massively held back. So I'm expecting it to be much better this year. And I like the discount that you get on Smith versus AJ Brown overall. I know I just took AJ Brown, but personally I prefer Smith's ADP than Brown's. Hartman checking in. What's up? Appreciate that, Hartman. Hall of Fame before the catch, Adonai. Yeah, he really is. And hopefully it sounds like Breece Hall is going to be back for the Jets. Hopefully he doesn't do Breece Hall like he did Jonathan Taylor, because that it was a 50-plus yard touchdown run, 11-plus points, and I lost I think that was week 4, I believe, and that was the first quarter finals, and my finals team had Jonathan Taylor, and so I got like $100 instead of I don't know. I don't think I would have gotten top like 10, but I would have been much higher in it. And it was like my best elim team got knocked out that week, and then the next couple of weeks JT goes off, so I probably would have like really pushed that elim team at least through the next like 3 or 4 weeks. Officer Schneid checking back in. Jeremy Bernard, it's like a kick in the nuts, 75% like a truck. Yeah, I'm not going to be that high, but I'm like 30% on Jeremy Bernard, so that feels good, and I'll keep drafting him. All right, let's get into another draft. We will count down. Didn't get to talk a lot about all the free agent rumors just because that was a great conversation. We'll keep it going, but yeah, there's a lot of rumors out there, and I'm sure we'll be talking about them throughout the week as well. Oh, sorry, meant to count that down, but there's plenty of room, so jump in. Sorry, didn't count it down. As you can tell, been streaming for a while now, so my brain's a little off. So hopefully this is you all jumping in, still waiting on 6. I know there's a delay, so hopefully you guys can get in here. But talked a little bit about the quarterback situation, Kyler like getting cut, Malik Willis being kind of the belle of the ball. The $30 million average price is a bit of a shock. My guess is it comes in slightly under that, high 20s, but I think Malik Willis is going to have quite the market. After that, Rodgers is Steelers or bust. Kirk Cousins. The report that was interesting, I think it was Jeremy Fowler saying Cousins might wait this year to see where his best opportunity is. It's not ideal for drafting him in best ball. If he waits till after the draft, I mean for pre-draft best ball, but he could end up, he doesn't want another Michael Penix situation. I personally don't see like Ty Simpson being that. So I don't know if he has much to worry about, but it'll be interesting to see where Cousins ended up. I mean, Vikings make a lot of sense, but if they go Kyler or Willis or Geno has been tied to them quite a bit, maybe that's not an option. I do think he could be a fallback option for the Cards, given his connections to, the Shanahan tree, which LaFleur has been under. Like this LaFleur, Mike LaFleur, was not part of that Washington staff with Cousins, but Cousins' first quarterback coach was Matt LaFleur. And of course, Sean McVay was eventually his offense coordinator, and Kyle Shanahan was his original offense coordinator. So tons of ties there for Mike LaFleur. You would think, if they don't get Willis. So I think after the Willis domino falls, it will become very interesting where the rest of the quarterbacks go. Willis and Murray are the first 2 dominoes, and then Rodgers as well. Because the Steelers, I think, open up a pretty interesting path for another quarterback if it's not Rodgers. Speaking of free agency rumors, I heard Fanspeak is signing a sponsorship deal with ayahuasca company to solidify Rodgers fandom. Yeah, Meg is very high on him. I think Rodgers is fine there, and he's going way too low. I mean, he's going behind. He's going for a while there. He's going behind Jacoby Brissett. I don't even think Brissett's like, if Rodgers plays, he's starting. Jacoby Brissett is not guaranteed to start. That's my rankings. He's just going too low, but I am more, he should definitely be Shedeur Sanders, particularly back with Mike McCarthy. And I personally question both Penix and JJ McCarthy because I just don't know if they're starting. So right now, I think he is a essentially free click, but we should be somewhat hesitant, and only in 3 quarterback builds, of course. So this looks like we got a lot of people in here. Danimal is in 2. Nat Paul is in 4. Farachi, not sure if he's in chat, is in 7th spot. I'm in 10. Div is in the 11th spot. So a lot of people in here. I definitely recognize a few other names as well. Good luck to everyone. Yeah, good seeing you. The Nap God 5978, that's Napball. So yeah, we will. Good luck to everyone in this class, in this draft. I agree. Like I cannot imagine a path of JJ McCarthy starting this year, outside of whoever they bring in getting injured and him then getting back the job then. But yeah, I just can't click him. Even if he goes to the 20th round, I just don't see myself clicking him. I'll take a Monroe here to start. It's kind of like, in many ways, it's like the Anthony Richardson thing last year. You knew they were bringing in somebody. They bring in Daniel Jones, and that felt like mid-tier enough that maybe Anthony Richardson could still have a path, but I just was really out on him until that like 2-week period where all the buzz from the beat reporters, and shows you trust beat reporters with a grain of salt, was talking about how Anthony Richardson was outplaying Daniel Jones, and it was, that was never going to be the case. Like clearly Steichen, wanted more consistency, wanted a guy who could run his offense, that he could trust, and it was a competition, yes, but it was like Daniel Jones' job to lose. And I think it's going to be the same thing with whoever they bring in, whether it's Geno Smith. I mean, I don't see the Anthony Richardson rumors because, he and JJ McCarthy are just too similar right now. Like oft injured quarterbacks who have not shown the ability to run their offense. I think they both just need to find ways to A, stay healthy, and B, just develop. But just about anyone else who the Vikings bring in, it's going to be that guy's job to lose. Like if they bring in Geno and he plays as worse as he did last year, yeah, maybe JJ can work his way back in. But I just don't think that's happening. Yeah, Penix is the one that's a little tougher. There was like an initial comment that was supportive of Michael Penix, but it's kind of like the same initial comment that Todd Monken was supportive of Shador Sanders. But ever since then, nothing has made it sound like super secure. So my lean is, if they can, the Falcons are going to bring in somebody. And it also, I really liked Michael Penix coming out, but he has just so many injuries, and having his third ACL in like 6-7 years that's a lot. So moving on from the quarterback position for a second, like some other news and buzz coming out from the combine. I mentioned the Giants and the running back situation. Aaron Jones is going to get cut unless they find a trade. So that's kind of what we were expecting, but that's now confirmed. Still think Aaron Jones could find a usable landing spot. I didn't take Allen last time. I could consider it here. Yeah, let me do that and fall in a few other spots. We'll go with that. Other running back buzz, like, Breece Hall, everything is saying he's back with the Jets. The Etienne Walker situations feel more fluid. I think the team wants him back. It's just, can they find the right price? I still kind of bullish for both to stay. I will take Devontae Adams. Actually, no. Let's take, speaking of raging backs, let me pull up Javonte Williams. He's moving up as he should. And if I don't take him, I'm probably not getting another running back that I like. So, then I think you have this tier free agent wise of Rico Dowdle, Tyler Algier, the Algier wanting like 3 years, 22 million, a little behind Javonte Williams. Yeah, I think he gets that. I think whether it's, let's say the Jaguars let Etienne leave, go sign Rico Dowdle or Tyler Algier. Like that's a fairly good fallback. Different types of players, and neither one fully fits what Etienne does, but I think they could be a reasonable lead back. Hartman saying it would be kind of funny if all the top guys just stay. Yeah, seriously, because then Javonte was probably him or Dowdle. I think entering the free agency were the fourth guy, and Hall. It doesn't matter the order. Walker, Hall, Etienne were the top three. You could easily have had the top four guys stay. No, it seems very possible there. And then you could have like J.K. Dobbins, who was 7th, 8th, and Gainwell. Those two guys end up staying. So yeah, many of them could end up staying. Money ain't a thing. I've seen the Vikings as dark horses to trade up for Love. I don't see that happening. Mason very undervalued. Yeah, my guess is they don't trade up for Love, but I could see them very live to be taking a day 2 running back. So whether it's Love's teammate Jadarian Price in second or in the 3rd round, whether it's Emma Johnson, like Washington, somebody, that'd be my lean and guess. But that's what I talked about before. It's tough to find a great landing spot for Love because all the teams who, like have some openings at running back do pick in the top 10, but it's like every one of them, the Saints are sitting there. We could go Jeremiah Love, or we could add a second receiver because Devon Vele is right now our number 2 receiver. We could add to our defense, which was very questionable last year. Washington's same sort of thing, receiver or defense. I mean, they have holes of defense across the board. Chiefs are the exact same way. Like a couple of their top defensive backs are free agent. They're probably not bringing them in. They have offensive line holes. They have receiver holes, particularly if they don't feel confident about the Rashee Rice situation. But Jeremiah Love makes sense for them. Vikings are in the same camp as well. So that's why it's tough to find, because it's just when you're doing a mock, you never think, running back over this. But we saw it with the Falcons a couple of years ago, even the Lions later. In both those teams, Falcons and Lions, going into the draft, we will take Dunze here. Going into the draft, you have said Falcons, Tyler Algier had a 1,000-yard rookie year. Like, he looks fine. Lions signed David Montgomery. They have DeAndre Swift on their roster. They're not drafting Jahmyr Gibbs. No way. And of course, they both do. And then, they trade Swift for a 6th-round pick or whatever. Sometimes that's how it ends up being. So, maybe that's the Giants. I still don't see it. But I actually think Washington ends up being very live for that. I think I generally like Evans more than Marv. Let me take Evans. I know it's a long shot of him going to the Bills, but I have Josh Allen. Evans is a free agent ex-receiver who the Bills would love. It's unlikely to happen, but why not? And I just kind of like Evans in general there. So, I think Washington, when Hayden Winks did a mock last week, he had the Rams trading up to Washington spot, Washington trading back and taking Love. That would have felt better because you're then getting a late 2nd round pick for the trouble. But now I no longer think that's probably feasible. You trade back to 13 and can get Jeremiah Love. So I see it from Washington because JCM, for all the hype, super inconsistent and has no passing value. He was fine for a 7th round pick, don't get me wrong, but a lot of fumbles there, a lot of inconsistency. He had some big breakaway plays, but you could get that with Love and then get all the other carries be positive also and be a major weapon out of the backfield. And I think that's actually one of the best ways to support Jaden Daniels is to give him a quality running game. We saw it with Lamar. We see it with Josh Allen. See it with Jalen Hurts. Like these mobile quarterbacks, like give him a good runner. Yeah, give him a great runner. It pays off quite a bit. So Washington has so many needs. It's tough because Washington has so many needs. And yes, they have money, which is also they could just sign, like a Rico Dowdle. But I could see them just making the big splash with Love and, going from there and hopefully fill the rest of their needs through free agency because they don't have a second round pick or a fourth rounder. So that's a bit problematic for them. Hartman asks, is Dubs for sure gone from Green Bay? Like in another situation, I would be thinking they should bring Dubs back. He's been good. Him and Jordan Love seem to work well together. I know 2 years ago he had that one thing where he's like left practice or whatever and he got semi-benched, but he's just Mr. Consistent for them. He blocks, he does everything they ask of him. To me, Jaden Reed's his own thing. He's a slot guy, but they extended Christian Watson for 1 year. So he is a free agent after next year, but Watson came back and played very well. They invested the first rounder in Matthew Golden. They also invested a third rounder in Savion Williams. So he's more like the Jaden Reed backup. I just think Romeo Dubs is going to get $15 million a year, maybe a little bit more, potentially a little less. But like Slayton got $12.5 million a year. I think Dubs has done more than that and probably has a better market. So it's kind of how I see it playing out. Let's take quarterbacks are falling a bit. Let's take Jacoby Myers here. And the other factor involved is Packers don't have a lot of cap room. Like they're having to cut guys, restructure a lot of guys. They have multiple defenders they probably want back or need replaced. Offensive linemen they need either, after cuts, either replace or bring back at cheaper rates. They're going to have to bring in a backup quarterback. And overall that's not expensive, but usually between $5 to $8 million for a backup quarterback. Like they had Malik Willis on a rookie deal, so he was super cheap. I'll go Pollard. I still feel better on Pollard than like Chuba Hubbard. And they draft Love and Pollard's going to get traded or cut somewhere. But if not, if the Titans just roll with Pollard, I think he could do well with an improved offense. Like we've seen what he's done these last 2 years on legitimately the worst offense in the league. Whether 2 years ago with Levis or last year with Ward, and more just that, that Callahan offense was just awful. So if this offense is just even 20th best or 20th worst, however you want to define it, but it's even ranks 20th or 25th, that is a massive improvement in potentially Tony Pollard's outlook. So I still will take some bets here on Pollard. But yeah, going back to Dubs in Green Bay, I just don't see they have the money for that kind of contract. And if so, then it's terrible for Matthew Golden. If somehow he's back, I think Matthew Golden needs to fall rounds. I mean, already he goes ahead of Dubs. And, Matthew Golden at that point should go like 170. So my expectation, and I was talking about Packers need a backup quarterback. Yeah, maybe they draft somebody in the fourth round or somebody this year, but Jordan Love has dealt with some injuries, so they might want a little bit more security at the position. And yeah, it will cost them a couple million. Vikings could just take Jane Price in the second round. Yeah, that's kind of how I see it. Running back just is enough if you need for the Vikings to make big moves, in my opinion. More likely to sign a cheaper vet. Yeah, that's kind of my feel for it too. I mean, would it shock me? Because there's enough of a need there. They could look at it as making a big splash to help the offense, but I see them kind of pushing it off. Agreed, because they're going to have, they're cutting like Hargrave and probably some other guys. And of course, Harrison Smith retired, so they have a hold safety. For a team with so many team needs, does that make Jane Daniels overvalued? I say yes, and haven't been clicking them. No, I kind of agree, just because it's not just the total team needs, because honestly, they have a bad defense that can be good for a quarterback. But the only guy on offense that we have any confidence in is Terry. Let's see, what do I want to do with this pick? I think I'll take Goff. I'll still add a third quarterback. I almost always do. But Goff and Amon-Ra, Josh Allen, that feels good. And we'll catch up more at wide receiver and figure it out from there. Kincaid goes. I didn't want to say anything, didn't want to jinx it. I was hoping to push Kincaid to 111. Maybe could have taken Kincaid first, but probably a fair chance. I don't get. Could take Baker theoretically, but I'm going to take Wan'Dale here. I like Wan'Dale's outlook. I like Wan'Dale's outlook over what Shakir. I think Shakir is fine there, but Wan'Dale I think has a higher outlook. Probably going to flip them in my rankings. And I just don't care if I have Allen unstacked. But back to Jaden, I do think, though they got rid of Tyler Biadasz, which was surprisingly shocking. So they created a hole at center. Their guard, Chris Ball, not the NBA player, Chris Ball, was okay. So they could have upgraded there. But their offense line as a whole was strong, even with the center question now. The issue is, they have no weapons. So for Jaden, I know he did this 2 years ago with essentially no weapons, but Zach Ertz was actually a really big piece of the team that year. And I just don't know. That's not going to be as easily to replace. The hope is with all the money, they've now over $70 million in cap space. They bring in some people. We'll be focusing on defense, no doubt. But I mean, I kind of prefer May over Jane Daniels just because. And the other factor is injury. I mean, Daniels, he suffered 2 injuries his rookie year. It was just he played through the rib injury, but honestly, he wasn't good the next couple weeks. Real life, he was still okay, but fantasy wise, he had some of his worst weeks. And then, he suffered a knee or hip injury in the last game of the year, and that wasn't much of an issue. But last year we saw 3 injuries. It's always the risk with a guy like Jaden. May's just built a little bigger. Jalen Hurts is a little bigger. I mean, Jalen has his own injury history, but I just trust him to stay healthier a little bit more, and definitely trust his weapons quite a bit also. So I lean to those guys over Jaden, but Jaden still has just this high ceiling. So, but I think there are a lot of concerns. We have a first-year offensive play caller in David Blau, who was the assistant quarterback coach through 13 weeks of the year last year. So he took a massive jump into now being an offense coordinator. Don't need to go quarterback. It's going to take Tyron Tracy. Took Debo in the last one. We'll take Jaden Higgins in this one. I think Higgins will get the number 2 role in Houston. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't. Obviously, it's not a lock, but I think it's a reasonable expectation. He was playing, essentially him and Hutchinson were like 50-50 down the stretch. So I'm hoping he overtakes him. Definitely has way more upside. We got Steve McDivitt in here. Div. Hey, Steve, great to join you. I have my daughter, Jayla. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Kayla. Okay. So it wasn't my fault. Let's pull up Romeo Dubs. I love Debo also, but let's pull Dubs here. So it wasn't my fault. I have my 9-year-old daughter Kayla helping, so I'm in great shape. Yeah, you got a great assistant drafter with you. Appreciate you joining us, and hi to Kayla as well. Likely to Commander seems like a good bet. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Like after free agency, it could look totally different. They could have spent that money, could bring in a running back, and now I no longer think they're taking Jeremiah Love. They could bring in Likely. They could bring in a receiver. And because Terry's locked in at one wide receiver spot, they could go any number of directions. Like Terry's versatile enough that if you were to bring in another more like pure outside X, like a Romeo Dubs or Mike Evans, like Terry can be more the Z. And also could play a little in the slot. You could bring in a pure slot like Wandale, and it's just a massive upgrade over Luke McCaffrey and Jalen Lane right now. Rashid Shaheed could be a vertical Z for them, So I just think, having Terry helps it, and they add a tight end and a receiver, then I think Love becomes very potentially like that final piece on offense. If they add Rico Dowdle and a tight end, then maybe they're going receiver with that first round pick. Yeah, David Blau, Lions Thanksgiving legend, 100%. Can we make sure everyone is giving a like to this man? 45 likes, and Steve does the Macarena. Don't know about that. How many likes am I at now? Sorry, I had to go to my phone to check. So anyone want to shout it out, I'd appreciate that. If it doesn't show up on, use StreamYard, I have to go to YouTube to check. So I'm sitting here at 2370. Really strong now at wide receiver. I'll tack on an 8th. I think reasonably stop at 7. But I think I'll tack on an 8th. I'll do my standard, ideally 3-6-8-3 build. Definitely looking at tight end now. Or another running back. So we're going to go Juwan Johnson here. This is a guy, 100 plus targets, 77 catches. Touchdowns were light, and we know he can be more than that. So love his value here. I think he goes way too late in these drafts. So not really looking wide receiver here. Running back, definitely good target with this pick coming up. Quarterback, Daniel Jones would be fine. This time I don't have him stacked up to an extreme level. So I'll probably just wait for another guy later. So Kelsey goes. So I think I go running back here. I'll take another Alvin Kamara share. I'm just kind of out on Jonathan Brooks. We'll take Kamara as a 4th back. I think it's reasonable. But, any of these guys, Kamara, Connor, Aaron Jones, all these 2017 form guys are, they have a chance at least. 21. Yes, let's get those likes up. Appreciate it. If you're on Twitter, jump on over to YouTube, hit that like button. That really helps. I don't think I'll be doing it in Speedo, but let's see. Can we get to 35 likes? If we get to 35 likes, I will do a third draft. So I do appreciate everyone for your support. Enjoy talking, enjoy you guys just watching and listening, and also those drafting with me. So thank you everyone. We really appreciate it. Yeah, let's get those likes up. That really helps us out. And if we get to 35 likes, by the time this draft is done, I will do a third draft, which would be me essentially streaming from, I'm on the East Coast, 3 p.m. till 8 p.m. because I was on Cody's channel for over 2 hours, had about a 10-minute break, and then jumped in to talk ball with you guys. So quarterback, this is just a zone. I am out on quarterback. Jacoby Brissett, maybe he starts. I think it's more likely he's either the backup in Arizona or he could get traded somewhere else to be the backup. Shador, maybe he starts. We already talked about JJ McCarthy. I just don't know if it's all year, whether it's they bring in a rookie, they bring in another vet. I don't think Deshaun Watson. So, Rodgers, Cousins, I feel better about. I take some Geno. I think Tua is okay. Derek Carr, maybe he unretires. Not really taking the Tyson Badgett. I like Mariota over some of those guys, but that's the kind of quarterback we'll tack onto this. Tight end's getting a little picked over with 3 in a row, Barner, Schultz, and Njoku. You know what? I'm going to go Hawkinson. I think whether it's back with the Vikings or elsewhere, I think it ends up being fine. Down year, I get it, but the quarterback play was just awful. And the year before, honestly, the year that he came back from the injury, 455 yards, that was in like 9 games. And sure, no touchdowns, but that is a very usable game-by-game play. Maybe it was 10 games, 11 games, but still, like he was utilized fine, just didn't get touchdowns. I think that can change at any time. And I think for late 15th, 16th, sometimes 17th round, very reasonable click. So still looking at this running back tight end range. I'll go Kamani Vidal. This is another one. It makes sense for him to be the number 2 back. It is far from a guarantee. I'm treating it like a number 2 back, but we need to wait, survive free agency and then even survive the draft. So these are the type of guys I want. I'm okay having a decent percentage of, but I'm not going to be like 20-some% or 15% even. There's just too many ways where they end up being 0. Like look at like a Roshan Johnson last year, or Tank Bigsby was a weirder situation, but it just shows they draft 2 running backs, Tootin and Quinn Allen. ETN ends up with the job. I mean, there was some camp buzz that kept me on the Tank Bigsby train way longer than should have been. And then he gets traded to like the worst landing spot. Those kind of situations I just don't want to be overextended on. Go back to chat. I saved that for the members only streams. No, but I do appreciate all the support, guys. Brissett's stats were great last year. I see Brissett having a real shot to win against another quarterback edition, but who knows? We'll see. So my thing on Brissett is he definitely was fine, but he was kind of who he's always been. It's just instead of throwing the ball 30 times a game, he was throwing the ball 40 times a game. He averaged in his starts 40 attempts a game, like 40.1 attempts per game, whatever it ended up being. And so that kind of volume is going to just make your numbers look, pretty good across the board. But if you look at his like rate stats, his completion percentage, 64.9%, that was in line with his completion percentage in Cleveland when he got a long extended window during the Deshaun Watson suspension. But that's nothing to write home about. His 4.7 touchdown percentage, slightly above average. I think average in the NFL is like 4.5, 4.6. Definitely the best of his career. His yards per attempt, 6.9. That's below average. Usually averages around like 7.2 for the NFL. And that's even below like some more extended runs in his career. I think he was 7.1. Yeah, 7.1 with Cleveland. So, he was fine. And I think he was really good for fantasy, both for himself and also for McBride and Wilson. But it's not like they were winning games. A lot of it was late. A lot of it was garbage time. Maybe the Cardinals keep him, but it's just, to me, it's a new staff. He's cheap enough to be a backup, cheap enough to trade, where some other, I just mentioned the Packers looking for a backup. They could trade and he's the backup for like $6 million. Okay. Yeah. Let's go Gunnar Helm here. So that's what I worry about. Will I be completely shocked if Jacoby Brissett is the starter for one of these 32 teams, after the draft? No. But I'm going to kind of wait until the draft plays out before I see that, just because, like I said before, if Kirk Cousins does wait till after the draft to sign, maybe the Cardinals don't bring in anyone. And let's go Najee Harris for final running back. Now we can get back in the wide receiver range. We're done at tight end, done at running back. We'll look at these two positions going forward. But what if Kirk Cousins says, okay, Arizona, didn't draft Ty Simpson, didn't sign Malik Willis, whatever. They still have Jacoby Brissett. I'll sign with Arizona. I think Kirk Cousins probably starts above Jacoby Brissett, particularly given like the system familiarity and all that kind of stuff. Don't be shocked if Jacoby Brissett gets traded to like the Lions. Drew Petzing is now the coordinator there. They absolutely need a backup. I mean, they brought in Teddy Bridgewater from coaching high school football to have a backup last year. So yeah, I could see the Lions as because it's going to be like a 7th rounder. Like, you're not going to give up a ton for him. Steve McDivitt says, I think likely New England. He's a Massachusetts kid. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, they have Hunter Henry under contract for another year. I've heard talk that they could be interested in another tight end. I think it's more likely in the draft, like kind of a 2nd, 3rd rounder and guy to develop, play a little bit next year, let Henry move on and then take over the role. Likely, unless he signs for cheaper than probably expected, I'd be surprised in New England. But yeah, they need weapons. I mean, I think they add to Drake May's arsenal for sure. So maybe they fully commit in being in 12 personnel next year. Brissett's garbage time stats were nice, but the team was actually worse with him at the helm than Kyler. Kyler kept games close. Brissett lost him in the first half. Yeah, kind of. I mean, yeah, Kyler wasn't the greatest and either, but Kyler in 5 starts won more games than Brissett in 12. So, I mean, that just kind of shows the whole team was questionable. Got Who Hames checking in. I hope you're doing well, Who Hames. I'm in my second draft now. I said if I get to 35 likes, which seemed from where it was before a stretch, I'll do a third draft. Been talking ball for a while. I was on Cody's stream for 2 hours, now doing this stream. Index of suspicion. Arizona just couldn't pull out wins, but they had far more offense considering Kyler has never finished below quarterback 18, 20 points per game. Yeah, and that's one of the things I'm in on Kyler just because historically, in terms of points per game, last year was his worst, granted 5-game sample size, and I think he finished 20th, 19th or 20th, but before that it was never below 12th. So I think with a better team, he can be better. I know you're talking more points per game as a whole. I just think it was such a bad system for him. Jacoby got him more points at the end. They could make some things fun. Let's go Cooper Kupp here. Yeah, at this point, I'm just waiting on whatever quarterback is left. So we'll just click some names here to a car. I absolutely will say I hate all these options. just don't. I think they're very thin options to be starters this year. Legitimately, Joe Flacco might have a better chance than anyone. But I just like having a third body. If you luck into some starts, they can pay off. So we'll take Tua. Don't love it though. Let me get back to chat. Yeah. This mofo playing both sides of the trenches. This is why I drink 4+ energy drinks a day. I love me some at Who Hames. New England screwed the pooch on tight ends the last few years. I mean, I think Hunter Henry is fine. It's, they are just, it's okay to have a tight end like Hunter Henry. He had a good year. At times I thought they could have used him better. New England was a frustrating offense at times. This year had a lot more tight ends invited to the combine. I think they take 1/3 or so deep position this year. Yeah, that's kind of where I see it. Brissett gave us all the pieces we wanted minus the MHJ. Well, again, I think it was also their defense being so bad and them throwing the ball 40 times a game. And the other part of it was Kyler's attempts probably would have gone up as the season wore on. But, you lose Connor week 2 or 3 and then trade Benson like a week or 2 after that. And it just kept, their running game was non-existent at that point. So it made sense for them to throw 40 times a game. Flacco starting in Atlanta is a good shout. I could 100% see him being that option in Atlanta. I think you've got to have more than one guy as a Pats fan. I don't know who our backup tight end is. Not great. But it was Austin Hooper last year, but yeah, I think they could improve on that this year for sure. All right, I'm going to go over, excuse me, I'm going to go over my team and then we will check and see where we're at in terms of likes. If we're not there, that's fine. But if so, I will do one more draft. So I do know Natball is a YouTube member, so I will read out his team as well. He was in the 4th spot, and I believe that was the only. I think that was the only YouTube member. Yeah. So I'll go over my team first. I went 3-6-8-3. Josh Allen, Jared Goff, and then the throw-in of Tua Tagovailoa. Not really confident on him. If he is starting, it's probably for a bad team like the Browns on the cheap, or the Dolphins, or not. I'm sorry, not the Dolphins, or the Jets. But I like still having 3 quarterbacks. Running back, Saquon, Javonte, Tony Pollard. A little thinner at top for the running back position. As we talked about, Pollard is by no means a lock to be the starter in Tennessee. Alvin Kamara, definitely not a lock there. Kamani Vidal, Najee Harris. No idea where Harris would be. I think Vidal should be the number 2, but again, far from a guarantee. Receiver room, I think is pretty strong. Monroe, Roma Dunze, Mike Evans, Kobe Myers, Wandale, Jaden Higgins, Romeo Dubs. So a couple of free agents. We need to see where Evans, Wandale, and Dubs land. And Cooper Kupp, kind of that veteran to give me a little bit more security in case I get some bad landing spots or Jaden Higgins doesn't break out like I'm hoping. Then tight end room of Juwan Johnson, TJ Hawkinson, and Gunnar Helm. Maybe Helm ends up getting some competition or drafting somebody, but right now I thought he had a good enough rookie year to warrant a look to be the starter. And then I'll look at Natball's team, 3-7-8-2, Caleb, Baker, Mac Jones. Mac Jones played well when he got chances last year. There definitely sounds like there's a bit of a trade market for him, but I do think the 49ers will keep a high price on him, just given their history with quarterback injuries. And this is one of those kind of similar to mine, like if Mac Jones doesn't end up getting traded and Purdy doesn't get hurt, then you're fine with Caleb and Baker. Running back room of Breece Hall, Travion Henderson, Jadarian Price, Rico Dowdle, Katron Allen, Brian Robinson, and Ray Davis. So, this is, well, I don't love the current prices of Hall, presumably back with the Jets, and Henderson, when Stevenson goes 18, 20 picks later and probably gets more work. This is a good way to build it out. It's a 7 running back room, so you have some extra depth, but these are your spike week guys. And Jadarian Price and Rico both could end up as starting roles. Maybe Katron Allen gets a good role. Maybe Brian Robinson gets a good role. And then you have, to me, the ultimate handcuff guy in Buffalo. Like we talked about a lot of backs like Vidal, Emmanuel Wilson, who questionable if they're going to be a team's number 2 back. I think we know Ray Davis is the number 2 back. If anything happens to James Cook, the bigger question is, can he take on more of a third down role and get a little bit more usable weeks? We'll see. But boy, if anything happens to James Cook, Ray Davis is like the best click out there. Receiver room, Jamar Chase, Luther Burden, Ricky Pearsall, Travis Hunter, Jalen McMillan, Troy Franklin, Keon Coleman, Chris Bell. So kind of like full anchor with Chase, and then going back to these young guys like Burden, Pearsall, and then kind of waiting. Travis Hunter, McMillan, Franklin, Keon Coleman, Bell. A lot of upside there. Less certainty in their roles, but yeah, I think Franklin is a really good value there. But McMillan, if Evans leaves, he goes up. Hunter right now might be playing more defense, but as we talked many, many times, just takes, so early in the offseason, takes one trade, one injury, one talk from, Trevor Lawrence to Liam Cohen to say, let's put our best wide receiver as wide receiver, and that could change pretty quickly. And then Chris Bell's a fun 23 round click. Probably starting the year on the pup list, but could be like a second half guy. Brock Bowers and Jake Ferguson, easily can stop with 2 tight ends there. That's a very, very strong room. So let me hit up chat. And where were we? I think you got to have one more guy. Oh, I already said that. Read that one. Great points on the non-existent Arizona run game. Yeah, that between that and their bad defense, it'll make it easy for Brissett to have 40 targets a game. Now, Kyler also, like, Brissett ran a couple times. Kyler would have ran a couple more. So when I said Kyler would have thrown the ball more, he might have thrown 36, 37 times a game. But yeah, Arizona feels live to just take Love. I guess I resist that one at 3 as well. And maybe that's just my, running back in the top 5 bias. I mean, look, it has worked out sometimes. Zeke Elliott was a pretty damn good back. Excuse me. Still want them to bring in Brees. I think you're talking about the Patriots. I don't think that's happening. It doesn't sound like Brees is leaving the Jets. Oh, no, you're probably talking about the Cardinals. Cardinals would make a ton of sense with Mike LaFleur being the offense coordinator when they drafted Brees. But yeah, it doesn't sound like the Jets are letting Brees get out the building. Just wanted to check and see where we are on the like department. So it doesn't look like we're going to get there. Vidal is going to be a joker for McDaniels. That's how I'd play it. It's just one of those things, like, they don't have a ton invested in them. As McDaniel view him. But I'm treating him as number 2 back. Ray Davis equals prime Isaiah Guerrero. Yeah. Brees to Arizona. No, that would be a great landing spot for him. I don't think the Jets are going to let it happen. So I'm going to get on out of here. We got Steven as a new member. So let me read his team. Really appreciate you joining. Div was in the 11th spot. And he and his daughter, the combo team, so a little unfair to the rest of us. Went 3-6-8-3. Justin Herbert, Bo Nix, and Aaron Rodgers. As long as Rodgers doesn't retire, that's a 3-quarterback team. And I think Rodgers is. I think the Steelers' offense, not that they're going to be a top 10 offense, but Mike McCarthy has a long, good track record. Particularly if his quarterback doesn't get injured. Now, Rodgers is older, so that is a little questionable, but I just think could they be offensive 17? Yeah, absolutely. And if so, then Rodgers is just a massively good click. Even last year, he was trending really well. Then he had that weird middle of the year or kind of third portion of the year where he had a terrible Chargers game. Then he gets injured against the Bengals, misses the next week against the Bears, which probably would have been a potentially good game for him because it was high scoring. And then he comes back versus the Bills, and he's just not ready yet. So he gets buried by the Chargers and Bills. And then he misses half the game against Cincy, which would have been potentially a great game for him. James Cook, Travis Etienne, kind of your double anchor, adding Kyle Monanga, I think very good in that range. Emma Johnson, I'm still bullish on him. You heard me talk with Cody, or if you heard me talking on Cody's show, Off the Schneid, I believe Emma Johnson is still like RB 3 in this class, even with his questionable combine. And just take him at or past ADP now is where I'm at. I still like him. Still think there's a lot of chances he ends up in a potentially good role. Even his passing game value could keep him as a passing. Like if he goes in the 3rd round and my Commanders take him, guess what? He's going to be the passing down back. So then we go Tennessee, Taj Spears and Dylan Sampson. I think these are two younger RB2s on their team who, outside of Tennessee, like replacing Pollard, Spears should be the passing down back there. Sampson theoretically should be the passing down back in Cleveland. We'll see what it's like. But I think these are very good, solid clicks in this range. Justin Jefferson, as we talked about this entire show, essentially, Justin Jefferson should be getting a quarterback. That is massive for his value. So love him there. Pick 14. I have him essentially at the turn, like number 10, 11. I think he's a really good click there. Ladd, I love him with Mike McDaniel, Jordan Tyson, Courtland Sutton, Denzel Boston. I think that's a very strong wide receiver room. Two rookies, but both first rounders. I think, landing spot will be somewhat dependent, but you still have a core of Jefferson, McConkey, and Sutton, and Pat Bryant, DK, and Kyle Williams. You have the Bo Nix double stack there. You have Justin Herbert and McConkey, so that all feels good. And then Dallas Goedert, Pat Freiermuth, likely with Aaron Rodgers, and Jake Tonjes. I think Kittle will miss some time, and even when he's back early on, it could be kind of a split role. So you can definitely get some usable weeks out of him. We'll see where Goddard ends up. I think regardless, he's a strong click here. So I like how that team came together. There's probably an outside chance. I don't know, Denver can find the money. An outside chance Goddard could go to Denver. Not sure if that's what you'd want given your investment in their receivers, but that could end up happening. Denver, I think, looks to upgrade the tight end position. So thanks for joining. We appreciate you. And did we really get to 35 likes? Sorry, my YouTube is not working on my phone. Oh, yeah, we did. How about that? Appreciate you guys. Well, I'm doing a third draft. So thank you guys. Let's get into the third draft. We will count it down here. I'm going to enter in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, enter. So waiting on 10. Fresh room, sorry if you got in too early. FK saying thanks for all the great content today. I'm sure it's a long day for you. Well, it's still going, FK. We're still grinding. But no, I appreciate you guys. I like to do it. So thank you for everyone's support, whether you're just subbing to the channel and commenting and drafting, whether you're a YouTube member, whether you're part of our Discord, which is free, by the way. The link's in the description below. Whether you're part of our Substack, which is just one-time year-long payment. We appreciate it, and I'm happy to keep creating content for the people. In terms of production, RAS matters the least for running backs. Evan Johnson should be falling, but that doesn't mean he won't produce 100%. And this is what Cody and I's point was, and just I was trying to look for some, just kind of sorting by 40 time, just because that's the big thing that people focus on. And Alvin Kamara, 5'10", 214. Emma Johnson came in 5'10 and a half, 204. So very much same ballpark. Kamara had better jumps, but his 40 time was 4.56. And they both have this pass catching, upside at the very least. That's what I thought when Kamara was drafted. That's what I thought he was. I thought he was going to be just a pass catching back. And he did that, and obviously did a lot more. But why can Emma Johnson not have that kind of outcome? Another guy, he was a later draft pick, but Aaron Jones, 5'9", 208. He did do a 3-cone. Most guys don't. He had a good 3-cone. He had a good broad jump, a pretty good vertical jump, slightly more than Emmett Johnson's, 4.56. So, yeah, and we saw, some people questioned Scatterby last year. Tank Bigsby ran in the same time frame. He is a little bigger, but not like extreme. 2 years ago, of course, the big one being Bucky Irving, who just has a terrible combine across the board, tanks his draft capital, it seems like, and everyone's out on him. Well, he ends up being pretty good. So yeah, I'm definitely not out on Emmett Johnson yet. Let's see, we're in here. I had the 5th spot. We got Schneid. I'm not sure if he knew I was going to be doing another draft in the 6th. We got Ant in the 7th, Natball in the 9th, and Div in the 11th. So nice fun draft. Schneid's probably like, why are you still streaming? So no, this should be a good one. Sweet Leaf, thanks, Steve. Steve can speak for all your work. Appreciate that, Sweet Leaf. And thank you for subbing and commenting. Like I said, we appreciate it all. So 5th spot, we'll see. I generally treat, I think there's 6 guys I'm taking in the top 5-6 spots. 3 running backs between Bijan, Gibbs, Taylor. 3 receivers, Chase, Puka, and JSN. Do I think there's a case for ASB? Absolutely. Dude's finished wide receiver 3 years in a row. We know that offense is good. So I definitely think there's a case for it, but I'm going to generally put him as 7th. And saying, we got some dogs in this draft. Schneid, I said this is exactly going to be your comment and wondering why the hell am I still streaming? I had made, during my last draft, we were only at 20 likes. And I said, all right, I'll give you a goal, 35, and I do another draft. I got there, so gotta go with the people. We'll go JSN here. It was JSN Taylor for me there. So sorry you didn't get the random plus EV draft. So yeah, outside of a 10-minute break, I've been streaming since 3 p.m. 2+ hours on Cody's channel, 2 hours 15 minutes there. Then been on here since 5:30. So this will definitely be my last draft of the day, but I do appreciate everyone's support. McBride in the 1st round. Don't really see that. So that definitely should shake up the board a little bit. So Schneid goes JT 6, Ant goes CMC, Natball takes CD Lamb, and Div goes Cook. Yeah, Cody got it. Cody probably saw names and not happy. So sorry about that, Cody. This is definitely a sharp room. So coming up in a couple picks. Not really taking Bowers in the 1st or in the 2nd. Kind of happy with any of these receivers and running backs. At 20, Malik Neighbors, that's where I have them. So I'll happily take them there. But I think I would just follow my ranks. I have Pickens, London, essentially the same. I have more Pickens right now just because you can get them later. I'll put London 1st. Schneid takes Chase Brown. I like Chase Brown a lot. And Schneid is a Bengals fan, but I know it's not a homer pick. I talked about this on my stream the other day. You look at Chase Brown's numbers with Burrow or Flacco last year, and he had a 10-plus point game, I believe, every one of those weeks. It was just those Jake Browning numbers that really tanked his season. A lot of top 10 finishes among backs. That's roughly where he's going right now. So I just think he's in such a good position, and no real, not knocking on calling for Jake Browning's job, but I do hope the Bengals bring in a better backup quarterback, just in case. And hopefully it's zero, but if anything, hopefully it's like 2 games Joe Burrow misses. But please bring in a better backup quarterback, because this offense is just too good to be wasted on, bad quarterback play. I appreciate that, Daniel. Thank you. Yeah, it was a really fun stream with Cody. If you haven't checked it out, and we didn't end up getting to do any drafts. We just talked combine and rookies for 2+ hours. So it was a lot of fun. One wide receiver. So I'll come back with Kenneth Walker. I think he stays in Seattle. But if not, somebody's going to be paying him a lot of money, and I'm going to assume that means he's got a pretty big role. I do consider Kyron, I'm higher on Kyron than most, I think. We just see the consistency in his offense. Even with Corm eating into him, he still had a very good year. And we saw in the playoffs, it's still Kyron's job. Corm gets mixed in to ensure Kyron can stay healthy. But it's not to the point that I think it's detrimental. Now, that is as long as the Rams offense is good. So to me, the big Kyron thing is Matt Stafford healthy? If Stafford were to go down, I think that really tanks all those guys' value, but Kyron for sure. So, I know I talked early in the show about talking more of the free agency stuff. I haven't talked too much on the wide receiver department. There were a couple questions in there. Just some things that I saw, and again, this wasn't every nugget of information that was out there, just some things that I remember. I did mention the Alec Pierce. Colts are basically saying we're going to find one way or another to keep both Daniel Jones and Alec Pierce. I mentioned it in my first draft. Does that mean Michael Pittman's gone? I personally don't think so. Slightly up in the air. We heard a lot of buzz about the DJ Moore trade potential. I do think that ends up occurring. Where it ends up being, I think could end up making him actually a pretty valuable pick, where he goes currently in the 90s. There are some outcomes where it would not be great, but yeah, right now I'm taking DJ Moore in the 90s. So GSN London, Kenneth Walker. Scadaboo's there, but it's Devontae Adams. This guy, touchdown machine. This wide receiver room, ton of volume, ton of touchdown upside, ton of potential. Let's get it going. So I actually really like DJ Moore's ADP at the current moment. Slight risk there, but even if he gets a bad landing spot, I don't think he's going 90, 92. It's not like he's going 45. Mike Evans, wouldn't say that got cleaned up. Definitely a lot of promising things about the Bucks wanting him back and wanting to keep him, and he kind of wants to be there. But basically, it's saying Mike Evans is going to play for a contender. That's the thesis that I think came out of the combine. I think that's how we should have been playing it all along. So that's how I've been treating it. Why I'm ahead of Mike Evans, because it's either he's back in Tampa or he's going to Buffalo. He's going to San Francisco, maybe even the Ravens, maybe the Commanders. If he considers definitely you should consider the Ravens. Commanders, I think it would be a bit more iffy to consider a contender, just given all their needs. But any which way, he's going to play with some good quarterback, right? Like Ravens worry me just because historically their volume has been a concern. I'm going to go Rome here. This might end up being a 7 wide receiver team. And, but, for Mike Evans, there's just no way he's going to play with a bad quarterback. I can't remember who tweeted out there's a checklist and it's like contending team, quarterback that he likes, offense that he's going to be featured in. So it's like, sign me up to all those things. I heard, what was it? Was the Bills were tied to Shaheed a little bit. I feel like there was somebody else they were tied to. I don't think it was Romeo Doubs, but it might have been either one. I think would make sense for them. I think the Bills have to prioritize receiver. That's why I know I took Keon Coleman in one of the drafts. I'm kind of out on him. I know Brandon Beane still talks him up, but I think they're bringing in at least 2 receivers, probably one in the draft, one in free agency, or via trade, like maybe a DJ Moore or something. But I just kind of feel like they're going to make some moves to ensure that Josh Allen has weapons. So sitting at 0-1-4. Yeah, I know this is ahead of ADP, but it's where I have him ranked. Give me Ramondre here. Give me him over Jalen Warren. Just think running back starts to really fall off a cliff here. Wouldn't have minded a quarterback, but I didn't have to have one. Again, had Caleb been there, probably would have gone Caleb. Just didn't get him. Still love me some DJ Moore, regardless of how you feel about him. I agree. That's where I'm at. Like, he's a talented receiver. I actually think, he's okay if he somehow stays with the Bears at his ADP. He's good enough. He'll find some spike weeks. He'll find some points for you. Just, I think he's clearly going to be he'd be the 4th option on that offense. I think Burton overtakes him. Dunze and Loveland overtake him. Dunze, clearly was overtaking him, and Loveland did down the stretch. But on another team, I think he's, at worst the 3, and probably more likely the 2, and potentially the 1. Let's go Ricky. Yeah, I think that's the right click there. Probably will do 7 wide receivers. When I take 5 this early, and with them being like a 1st and 2nd rounder, I'm probably going to stop at 7. It kind of depends on who my 6th receiver is. If I go 8, then it's one of those, my last 3 picks are going to be wide receiver. I also know I'm just going to say it. I don't think I'm going to say, I think it's very unlikely I get Jeremy Bernard in this draft. So I can't count on him as a late round click. So yeah, the DJ Moore thing, as I mentioned, I think it was my first draft. Sorry, these things are maybe out of order, but I think it was my first draft. I took AJ Brown. I'm leaning to him staying in Philly. Could that change? Sure, but I think it's more likely than not that he stays in Philly. Outside of other trade market, I don't think there's big names. I mean, one report I did want to mention was the Steph Diggs report that he needs to redo his contract or get cut. I get they could save a lot of money by cutting him. I have a tough time. I know there's the off the field issue, but I have a tough time believing this team that went to the Super Bowl, and while they definitely need more weapons, they're going to cut the one weapon that was, good. I would be shocked. I'd be pretty shocked if they just flat out cut him. So that's one that, unless they really believe there's something with this off the field thing, I just don't know if they are in a position to cut him, because it's also, Pickens is locked in, Pierce seems locked in. I guess Mike Evans would consider them as well, and still could even with Diggs. But I just have a tough time buying that they're gonna move on so they can sign Romeo Doubs. Like, I like Romeo Doubs, I like Rashid Shaheed, but are these guys better than Steph Diggs? Not really. I talked about them before. Let's just keep it up. This will be a seven wide receiver team. And I'm going to take DJ Moore. So I'll take one wide receiver late now, and this is always tough for me, these kind of builds, because now it's like there could be a screaming wide receiver value 3 rounds from now, and it just makes 0 sense for me to take them. And I will try to stick to that. Sometimes I don't always do. But I think that's the best way to build these types of teams, is you sometimes just have to ignore that screaming value, because I'm not going to get that screaming value at tight end or running back or quarterback now. And all those positions are in a hole. So I'm going to take Algier over Hubbard. We're taking him over Quorum also. Quorum, I think, is a good floor play. Is a third running back. I think Algier offers more upside. I like Rico also for that role. And Hubbard, I'm just not sold. They're going to give him the job. That could be a real committee approach. They could draft somebody. Not really high on Jonathan Brooks, but yeah, just a lot of ways where that situation doesn't go how we want it to go. Speaking of running back in combine news, the Dave Montgomery, this was talked about in our Discord a little bit. Dave Montgomery once out in Detroit and pushing to be out, and then he kind of said that report was false, and I can't remember, Instagram, Twitter, whatever. My guess is they are kind of both okay with moving on from each other. Lines, getting Montgomery's cap hit out of the way, and Montgomery probably going to a situation where he is an outcome for more carries. Last year, I think the reduced role, because the first 2 years, the Gibbs-Monty train had Montgomery stayed healthy. In the first year, Gibbs missed a game also, but Monty missed 3, Gibbs missed 1. Second year, Monty missed 3 at the end, 3.5 at the end, and Gibbs just went off. Last year, and I get it, Gibbs is the more dynamic player, but it became much more a 65-35 role. And I think Monty's probably looking for, I think he knows he's probably not a above 50% guy. So my guess is he's looking back to get back to the 40-45% role. There's a lot of teams where he could do that. So I think a trade could happen, particularly in this weaker running back class. don't like running back here, so we will go Kincaid. Quarterback is going to be thinner. I think I might need to be I hope not a 4 quarterback team. So we're might need to focus these next couple rounds on quarterback and running back. So maybe a 2 tight end team if need be. That's kind of the way I'm playing it. I just have a tough time taking Chuck there. Darnold, I've been a little bit more okay on, and I probably should. I thought I could push him to 125. That's his ADP. With the JSN Kenneth Walker, I probably should have just taken him. That was my bad. I thought I could push him, but that was not the right call. Definitely seeing that now. Never ignore screen value. I mean, yeah, it's tough to do. I think it's just a situation by situation thing. Like, can you pivot it off? And it's, this is one where I should have ignored the Kincaid fall and taken Darnold, gotten Willis. I would feel a lot better about this team. So this is a perfect example of boxing myself into a bad situation, or letting the fall there kind of set myself up for a bad situation. But we will try and pivot and make the most out of it. I like Kincaid. He just needs to stay healthy is the biggest thing. He had a really nice year from per game standpoint. Just want him to get healthy, even if the Bills add somebody. I think he's very, very solid option. Let me go to the board. I'm seeing it 1361, Schneid 2261, Ant 1442, Natball 2252, and Div 2450. So Schneid went running back, double anchor, and then pivoted away. That went back-to-back quarterback. That's a fun combo. Ant went early quarterback with Allen after the 2 running backs, and then tacked on a couple other backs, so more total balance. Natball went Hampton is kind of like the anchor. Burrow is his top quarterback. Love second one, added Price. Now Dobbins. Div 3-4-5. And 3 running backs early with Garrett Wilson in between. Added Swift, so got really strong at running back fast, which is typically how I build. Took Kyler and Purdy back to back, and then just added Mendoza. So yeah, this is a situation where I feel very boxed in taking a quarterback here. Don't even have a stacking partner. I'm going to go Stroud over Bryce Young. So yeah, not a fan of that. Part of it is I have a tough time stacking London, not knowing Moore's outcome. Kyler was a misclick. Yeah, that was early for Kyler. I mean, I will say I like Kyler early. I think Kyler will rise when he lands somewhere. I think Willis does also. I think you can make a case, maybe not that early, but I think you can absolutely make a case for Kyler in this, like, right after Purdy. For as good as a real life quarterback as Jordan Love is, it's not like he's been a fan, like, he had a great run 3 years ago, second half of the year. But since then, he's just been good, like okay. So it's like Kyler has historically been better than Love. And Bryce Young comes back. Let's just take the quarterback value here. I need a third one. Don't love Trey Benson. I'm done at quarterback now. Let's end this misery. Daniel Jones would have been fine there also, but after that, it's such a drop off. So I think Kyler is I want to be well ahead of him right now at his current ADP range, because I'm not going to be surprised if he goes up that high. And, I also feel Kyler gets knocked from an injury concern. And yes, there's some of that, but I feel it's also doubly counted because he had the late ACL tear. So that ruined the end of one season and tanked the beginning of the next season. But we don't do that for other players. Like, we're not going to say Malik Neighbors is highly injury prone if he doesn't start the year next year, right? I just don't think we consider that in other situations the same way. And last year, yes, Kyler did have a legitimate, foot injury. Would have missed, 5 games, but he was ready to come back. It's just, the team, the offense did not jive with Kyler. Drew Petzing and Kyler probably not on each other's Christmas card list, would be my guess. So I'm willing to see Kyler in a new role be a solid pick. There's never a misclick. You lost your assistant GM. So I need to really focus on running back here. Could go tight end. If I had Sam Darnold, AJ Warner would make a ton of sense. I do not. Cody takes Mike Washington. I was considering pulling him up. I'll go Sean Tucker. I think he is going to be the number 2 back in Tampa, most likely, and the goal line back. So you can just get touchdowns, We talk about these kind of players, ideally I want a little bit more from him, but if he gets a touchdown and 40 yards or 30 yards and 2 catches, give me 10 points. That'll hit my lineup a couple weeks. I'm okay with that. Braylon Allen, I don't know what to do with Breece Hall likely back. And that really hurts his value. Just new offensive coordinator also. Just a lot of questions there. I'm going to take Isaiah Likely. I probably will add a third, a third tight end. I think this ends up being, I think I've caught up enough at quarterback. Running backs, I probably will end up 7. I think I'll go 7 receivers. I have 6 in the top 100. I feel like I just need to tack on one more. I don't need 4 tight ends with Kincaid and Likely. Had I done what I probably should have done, taken Darnold over Kincaid, I think then maybe you could consider this a 4 tight end build, 4 late round tight end build, but not with how this turned out. 14th feels cheap from what I've seen today. Oh yeah. No, Mike Washington feels like a good price, and to completely agree. And guys like these rookies who we know are going to go higher, and same when guys sign, I've taken, a lot of like Keenan Allen, just for an example, or Isaiah Likely. Isaiah Likely is a better example. Like Isaiah Likely, if he goes to the Commanders, he's going to start going in the top 150. He's going to go like 140-ish, if not higher. So at that point, I'm just going to start clicking him there. Like ADP, his 177 ADP is not going to matter, is the way I look at it. So yeah, same with these free agents, some of these rookies who we know are going to spike up. I want to consider the ranges, hoping Dalton Schultz would fall back. That didn't happen. That's frustrating. But yeah, whether these rookies or free agents or trades, like ADP, and this is why, like, have your own, or use somebody's rankings and just understand the thesis of where they are. I'll pull up Nicholas Singleton here. Let's have some fun. A lot of upside for Singleton. Same quarterback. Like I said, Kyler's going to move up. Malik Willis, I think, is going to move up once they sign. When Rodgers, if Rodgers unretires, he's going to move way up. Not that Rodgers should go 140, but is Rodgers going to go 175? Yeah, absolutely. Is Kirk Cousins going to go 175 if he's the Vikings quarterback or the Cardinals quarterback? Yes, 100%. So that's, right now, try and get them near their ADP. But once those things happen, don't be afraid to be 30 picks ahead of a guy's ADP, because if you know that's where it's going to start to end up, then just take it. I'm going to go Ray Davis here, as I talked about him, I think in the last draft when I was reviewing teams. Yeah, there's a chance if Cook stays healthy and they keep Johnson as the third down back, that he really doesn't produce much value, but he is the best insurance policy, just one of the best insurance policies out there. If Cook gets hurt, or if he can work his way into the third down role, then he could have some standalone value. But if Cook gets hurt, like, he's the number one waiver wire pickup. He's the number one guy you're jamming in your DFS lineups. So, yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. Like Sean Tucker, and we see it from Zach Robinson coming over from the Falcons. Like, he still used Algier more in the red zone. Like, as much as, obviously it's not a one-to-one comparison, Bucky versus Bijan. I think Bucky's fine, good click. And I want to say Scheid is pretty high on him, which is very reasonable. Bucks offensive line should be healthier, should be a better offense. No Rashard White anymore. So I think he solidifies the passing work, which is big enough for him. And Zach Robinson, I think, is a good offense coordinator, but Zach Robinson still uses Algier more as a touchdown hammer. I think Sean Tucker probably has that role. So yeah, you could have a game or two with like 2 touchdowns. And especially, last year on the Falcons offense was not good. Like, if the Bucks offense, Baker's healthier and better, their weapons are healthier, like, as a whole, the Bucks could be a top 5 offense, top 10 offense. So I am bullish on that. I am going to add another back. Let me take a Caleb Johnson shot. I have some worries for sure. Maybe Kenneth Gainwell's back. Maybe Aaron Jones is the Steelers' back. At the same time, this is one of the more open situations. So, taking a few shares of Caleb Johnson, I think, is very reasonable. He was a 3rd-round pick. not sure what Mike McCarthy and Brian Angelico and can't remember their running backs coach name. Those are the guys who are going to decide this at the end of the day. And potentially Aaron Rodgers. But it's also now his second year in. Has he learned blitz pickups, things of that nature? There's just more upside there for him in a 7 RB build. It's a fine 18th, 19th round click. Tight end. So probably my 3. I don't trust Jatavian Sanders. I know it'd be a stack. I just have a tough time trusting it. I could go wide receiver, Bailey, Keenan, Bateman, Knoll. Jack Besh, Cooper Kupp, all the, not Cooper Kupp on a JSN team, but you know what? I think I'll just take Jalen Knoll. I have 6 strong starting receivers. We'll take an upside play, Knoll. No Christian Kirk. I think it's Knoll versus Tank Dell primarily. And I think second year, third round receiver, some deep playability. I have Stroud, like kind of the edge there for me. And seeing a couple of these guys, already have 3 tight ends. Wes Cocaine has 4. Not expecting many tight ends to be drafted ahead of me. So if I end up with Jatavian Sanders, I look at it not the end of the world. I'll probably take these other 3 ahead. Claire. Pull up a Sam Roush, unless Cody already got him. No. Thoughts on Najee at ADP? Yeah, I think Najee is very reasonable at ADP. Another veteran back. He's going to sign a cheap prove-it deal similar to Javonte Williams last year. Is an early injury, so hopefully he can come back okay. And the early reports we're getting on him are promising. Still, huge grain of salt to take it with, but where his current ADP is, I think he could sign. Now it's also like he could sign and be a third. There's not going to be a lot invested in him. So maybe he gets cut, just not materialize in any way. Also could be like, he could be a third back on team, kind of like Devin Singletary ended up with pretty good usage, but it could be like the Devin Singletary. But 17th, 18th round is where you're getting him. I think I think he's more likely to get playing time than a lot of guys down here. So I definitely mix him in. Caleb was one where it just seemed like third round, fit the offense. Jalen Warren is limited in what he can do. Just never saw Kenneth Gainwell. He had only signed for like $1 million, $1.5 million. So it felt like, and even he and Jalen Warren do a lot of the same things. So it felt like Caleb could have been, that hammer, that touchdown guy, and just never happened. So we'll go Mike Gesicki here. Another guy who you look at his numbers, he unfortunately was hurt at the time when Flacco took over. So we didn't see him until essentially Burrow came back. And he had a couple nice games with Burrow down the stretch. I had this running in the background, was not expecting to hear that username. Heard West Cocaine has 4, and I thought The Wire was on. Great shout. The Wire is such a great show. Yeah, that glad can entertain you, FK. Shine saying, I thought I'd take my first Burke share in 9 wide receiver room. Yeah, I was considering Sam Roush. Had Gesicki gone, I think I would have taken Roush over Jatavian. So I was kind of thinking the same thing, Cody. But no, I think that's smart to grab Burks. And like you said, you went 9 wide receivers. I know took the 2 early quarterbacks and got your 9th receiver. So yeah, a lot. And I had a feeling I had no shot at Jeremy Bernard in this draft. Just a feeling. All right, I'm gonna read out my team, and then Div and Napball for being our YouTube members. So let me go back to my team real quick. Yeah, West Cocaine is quite the name. All right, 3773. Malik Willis, CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, Kenneth Walker, Ramondre Stevenson, Tyler Algier, Sean Tucker, Nicholas Singleton, Ray Davis, Caleb Johnson. Obviously, I need Stevenson and Algier to be pretty good, but I think I have enough depth at running back here. JSN, London, Devontae Adams, Roma Dunze, Ricky Pearsall, DJ Moore. I'm expecting Moore to get traded, so I really like that 6 wide receiver room. Threw on Jalen Noel as a flyer at the end. Dalton Kincaid, Isaiah Likely, Mike Gesicki. I just talked about Gesicki, talked about Likely earlier. Guy who if he signs to a place where we feel he can be pretty good, like Washington, potentially a few other places. Yeah, I think his ADP is going to seriously rise. And Buffalo, Dalton Kincaid is, pretty solid. I still regret not doing Sam Darnold over Kincaid. I think that probably was the way to go. If I start Sam Darnold, Malik Willis, and then either one of these other 2, I feel a lot better about my quarterback room and team, and especially with the Walker JSN. I got greedy. I thought I could push him. Was not able to. All right, let's look at Napball and excuse me. Napball's team from the 9th spot went 2, 7, 8, 3. Burrow, Jordan Love, Martin Hampton, Jadarian Price. So Hampton is like the anchor. Price, we feel pretty good about getting a good landing spot. Then taking some of these free agent shots in Dobbins and White, which you get good landing spots, a lot pay off. I think Bigsby is kind of a lot like Ray Davis. He should be back in Philly as the number 1 back there. And, if anything happens to Saquon, he is 100%, a great play. Then taking some flyers late in Claiborne and Jordan James. So yeah, an anchor running back build, a couple other guys with kind of projectable usage in Price, Dobbins, and White, and then some Bigsby and Jordan James is the same kind of play. We just don't know for sure. He's like the number 2 back, but 20th round option. Lamb, Higgins, Jameson Williams, Jordan Tyson, super strong start to the wide receiver room. Jane Reed, I think, is a fine click in the early 100s. Then went Pat Bryant, Zach Branch, and Bateman. I think Bryant's fine. I just prefer Franklin over Bryant, but I went some of both. Denver is a good offense. Zachariah Branch, he's probably going to have pretty good draft capital. I'm less bullish on him overall, but he's probably a 2nd round pick in the NFL draft. So if it's the right landing spot, they utilize him correctly. We're still talking a late round click here, so not heavy investment. And then Bateman, I think it all depends on what the Ravens end up doing at receiver. But right now, it's fine to take some, blade shots on. Kraft, Goddard, and Njoku. That should be a really good wide tight end room. Need to see the landing spots for Goddard and Njoku, but very, very big upside there. Div in here at the 11th spot, 3593. Kyler, this mention was a misclick. Purdy and Mendoza, so still 3 starting quarterbacks. James Cook, A-Chain, ETN, Swift, we talked about before, heavy early running back usage. Added Emmanuel Wilson. And here's the thing, like, even though the Packers passed on him, if they still could bring him back. If Emmanuel Wilson ends up as a free agent, he still could sign somewhere and be a number 2 somewhere. I think he's shown enough these past 2 years. Garrett Wilson, Christian Watson, Jacoby Myers, Steph Diggs, Deebo Samuel. So even though technically only 3 in top 100, I kind of consider Diggs, his ADP is clearly there and I think worth it. And Deebo also probably ends up with a pretty decent free agent market. Jalen Millen, Trey Tucker, Ryan Flournoy, Malachi Fields. Fields is, I think, going to be kind of locked into the 20th round with his combine. Still could be a big red zone threat somewhere. We'll see what his ADP, what his draft capital ends up being. And then, McMillan, I think a lot ends up tied to Evans leaving. I think then it's one of those things, like Evans leaves, he's probably steal at this ADP. Evans stays, he probably should go 20 picks later, but you're taking that risk at 155. I think that's fine. Done it a couple times, and I like it more in these 9 wide receiver builds. Like in a 7 wide receiver build, not as much of a fan. 8 wide receiver build, kind of dependent on where you're at overall. Just because I think there's more risk than you generally want in the 140s, 150s. But honestly, a lot of those guys in that area are risky. Tyreek, Hunter, Brandon Ayuk, etc. Trey Tucker, I think, is a nice value pick. Ryan Flournoy, should be the number 3 for Dallas. And then already talked about Fields. Tight end room, went late tight ends, but Hunter Henry, Theo Johnson, Cade Otton. Theo Johnson, I think, did more than enough to show he should be the starting tight end. Obviously, new staff, maybe things change, but he's seemed to have a good connection with Dart. So I think it's promising there. Cade Otton, whether it's back in Tampa or starting somewhere else, I think is fine. And Hunter Henry is, should be at worst one of the top 3 weapons for Drake May next year. So Div, I think maybe not happy with the Kyler Murray pick, but I think it's still fine. Okay, you got it early. I think the team as a whole, it's still good. You know what I mean? I don't think it hurt you. Could you maybe made a better team if you took somebody else at 86? Sure. But you're fine. Your running back room is strong. Your receiver room, which is probably where I imagine you would have been going, is, I think still good. Through Deebo, you're strong, and then you have depth behind it. And then tight end room, for going late round tight end, Hunter Henry, Theo Johnson, Cade Otton, pretty solid. So I'm going to get out of here. I appreciate everyone for joining. It's been obviously a long day streaming, but a lot of fun. If you didn't check out Cody's stream, I was on Cody's channel before this. Check it out. Off the Schneid on YouTube. And I will be back tomorrow, probably my normal 1 p.m. time. Thank you, everyone, for watching the episode, liking it. Get the chance to drop a comment afterwards. That helps us as well. Hope everyone has a great rest of the day, and I will catch you next time.